Good day, listeners. In the Philippines, the war on drugs has led to countless arrests. But what happens when the very procedures designed to ensure justice are allegedly not followed?
hmm
Can a drug conviction stand if crucial steps in handling evidence are skipped? And what does this say about the balance between fighting crime and protecting individual rights?
That's the core tension, isn't it?
Exactly. Today, we delve into a Supreme Court case that puts these questions front and center.
We're taking a deep dive into People of the Philippines versus Lean Noel Dizon, also known as Jingle. That's GR number 223562, promulgated on September 4, 2019.
GR Nolo 223562. Got it.
Right. And this is basically an appeal. Dizon was trying to overturn his conviction by the lower courts for violations of the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002. That's RA 9165.
Okay, so RA 9165. Let's get into the specifics then. What facts were presented to the trial court that led to Dizon being convicted in the first place?
Well, the prosecution laid out their version first, naturally. They said Task Force Casaligan got a tip about someone called Jingle selling drugs. This was in Barangay Dos, Siatan, Negros Oriental.
Okay.
So they put together a buy-bus team. This included an agent from the PDEA, the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency Special Investigator 1 Claire Oldon. She was the poser buyer.
The one pretending to buy the drug.
Exactly. And she had backup PO3 Juria Magsayo and PO3 Petaglorio and some others too. They prepared marked money, a P500 bill, and they recorded the serial number. Standard procedure.
Right, so the setup was complete. What did the prosecution say happened during the actual operation?
According to them, on December 5th, 2010, Agent Oladon, the poser buyer, went with an informant to approach Jingle. She testified that she bought 0.15 grams of suspected shabu from him using that marked P500 bill.
Okay.
After the supposed sale, she gave the signal, the backup officers rushed in, and they arrested Jingle.
And was anything else found?
Yes, during the arrest, they said they recovered another sachet containing 0.13 grams of suspected shabu from his possession.
So 2 sachets in total, allegedly. What about handling the evidence? That's often critical.
It is. The prosecution stated they marked the seized items and did a partial inventory right there near the scene at a nipa hut outside Jingle's house.
And who was present for this initial inventory?
They said Jingle himself was there, plus 2 barangay officials, Kagawad Reynaldo Sumagese and Santiago Sabron Jr., and a DOJ representative, Nicanor Ernesto Tackle. They also took photographs at this location.
DOJ, barangay officials, the accused.
Okay. Then they took Jingle to the NBI office in Dumaguete, National Bureau of Investigation. They blotter the arrest there.
Right.
And importantly, they continued the inventory process at the NBI office. It was there that a media representative, Neil Rio, signed the inventory form.
Oh, okay. So the media rep signed later at the NBI office.
Correct. After that, Agent Oladon requested the lab exam and delivered the items to the forensic chemist, Josephine Lina. The chemistry report, D15510, confirmed both sachets contained methamphetamine hydrochloride shabu.
They presented documents too, I assume. The report, the photos.
Yes. Request for lab exam, the chemistry report itself, the sachets, the receipt of property seized, the marked money, other bills found, a joint affidavit from the officers, the photos. Quite a bit of documentation.
Okay, that paints the prosecution's picture. But the defense must have had a completely different story.
Oh, absolutely. A stark contrast. Dizon, Jingle, and his sister testified. They claimed a vehicle pulled up looking for someone else entirely.
Not him.
Not him, according to them. Then, they say men who identified themselves as police grabbed Dizon, handcuffed him, and took him to that nipa hut.
And what happened at the Nipa hut, according to the defense?
Their testimony was that PO3 Petaglorio pulled out 2 sachets of shabu and a paper and basically threatened Dizon, saying, "Cooperate or else." That's the claim. Dizon said he was forced to sign this paper, and then the money and the sachets were just placed on it.
And the witnesses.
The officials.
They said the barangay officials, the mayor, Agent Dungog, and others arrived after this, signed the paper, and photos were taken then. A very different sequence.
So the timing is completely different in their version.
Completely. Dizon also added he was taken to the NBI office, offered a deal to become a police asset, which he refused. He even claimed one of the agents, Dungog, had tried to recruit him before.
And did he file any countercharges for this alleged frame-up?
He said he didn't because he didn't have the money for a lawyer.
Right. Lack of funds. So 2 wildly different narratives. How did the trial court rule?
The trial court believed the prosecution. They found Dizon guilty beyond reasonable doubt. Both counts illegal sale and illegal possession.
What were the sentences?
Pretty heavy. Life imprisonment plus a P500,000 fine for the sale. And for possession, an indeterminate sentence, 12 years and a day up to 14 years, plus another P400,000 fine. And the drugs were ordered confiscated, of course. Life imprisonment. Wow. So he appealed this to the Court of Appeals.
Yes, he did. But the Court of Appeals, or CA, sided with the trial court. They affirmed the conviction.
On what grounds did the CA affirm?
They essentially found that the prosecution had proven all the elements needed for both crimes, and crucially, they believed the chain of custody wasn't broken.
Even with the defense's claim?
Even with those claims. The CA felt the integrity of the evidence was preserved, that the shabu presented in court was the same shabu seized from Dizon.
Okay, so trial court convicts, Court of Appeals agrees. That brings us to the Supreme Court. What was the make-or-break issue for them?
The big question for the Supreme Court was really about procedure. Did the authorities actually follow the rules laid out in the law for handling drug evidence? Specifically, Section 21 of RA 9165, the chain of custody rule.
Section 21.
Yeah.
That seems to be the sticking point. And what did the Supreme Court decide? You mentioned earlier he was appealing.
Yes, and this is where it gets interesting. The Supreme Court reversed the Court of Appeals. They acquitted Lee Noel Dizon.
Acquitted after 2 lower courts convicted him. Why?
It all came down to that chain of custody, Section 21. The law is very specific. It requires an immediate physical inventory and photograph of the seized drugs right after seizure.
Okay.
And this has to be done in the presence of the accused, a media representative, a DOJ representative, and an elected public official. All of them have to sign the inventory.
All 4 present at the same time immediately after seizure.
That's the ideal prescribed by the law, and the Supreme Court looked at the facts here. Yes, the barangay officials and the DOJ rep were there at the Nipa hut for the initial inventory.
Right.
But the media representative wasn't. He only signed later, back at the NBI office.
So that discrepancy mattered.
Hugely. The Supreme Court pointed to its own previous rulings, cases like People v. Sagante and People v. Cabo. They basically said, look, if even one of these required witnesses isn't there during that immediate on-site inventory, that's a serious breach.
A breach of the chain of custody.
Exactly. It casts doubt on the integrity of the evidence, the corpus delicti. Especially, the court noted, when you have allegations of a frame-up, like Dizon was claiming, strict compliance is meant to prevent exactly that kind of doubt.
So the fact that the media guy signed later didn't fix the initial problem.
No, not according to the Supreme Court. They mention the saving clause in the law's implementing rules. That clause sometimes allows for deviations if there's a justifiable reason and the evidence integrity is preserved.
But it didn't apply here.
Right. Because the prosecution never explained why the media representative wasn't there at the Nipa hut during the initial inventory and marking. No justification was offered.
So, failure to follow the witness rules strictly and no good reason given. Was that the only issue the Supreme Court found?
There was another significant point. It involved Dizon signing the certificate of inventory.
What about it?
The court pointed out there was no evidence showing Dizon was informed of his rights before he signed it. Specifically, his right to counsel and his right not to sign anything that could incriminate him.
His Miranda rights, essentially, in that context.
Effectively, yes. They cited another case, People v. Del Castillo, emphasizing that making someone sign such a document without advising them of their rights is a constitutional violation.
So 2 major issues. The incomplete witness presence at the initial inventory and the violation of the accused's rights when signing the inventory.
Precisely. And the Supreme Court stressed how vital these safeguards are. Given the incredibly harsh penalties in drug cases like life imprisonment here, they said strict implementation is non-negotiable to prevent wrongful convictions.
It really drives home the point that procedure isn't just red tape. It's fundamental to justice.
Absolutely. This Dizon case powerfully illustrates the Supreme Court prioritizing due process, even amidst the pressures of the anti-drug campaign. It signals that procedural integrity is paramount.
Which brings us back to that central tension. So for you, our listener, reflecting on this case, People v. Lee Noel Dizon, what does this decision tell you about how crucial adhering to legal procedures is in drug cases, despite the urgency to combat them?
And how might this acquittal, based on these procedural grounds, impact future drug prosecutions? Does it strengthen or potentially complicate the public's trust in the justice system?
We genuinely like to hear your thoughts. Please share your reactions and insights down in the comment section.
Yeah, let us know what you think. And if you found this breakdown of the Dizon case useful, please hit that favorite button.
Definitely. And to ensure you don't miss out on future deep dives into significant legal rulings and their wider impact, make sure you subscribe to our channel. We'll keep bringing you these in-depth analyses.